Hello, hello. Hey, Chuck.
How's it going?
Pretty good. How about yourself?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Awesome. Let me send an invite to Leighton because it's saying it failed. So let me try one more time. Hey, Brendan.
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
This is an exciting Twitter space.
Yeah, good to
Cool.
be here.
Awesome. So as people trickle in, and as we wait for Leighton as well, I'll let you guys do some brief introductions in the meantime. So yes, please
Yeah,
introduce yourselves.
sure. I can start. I'm Brendan. I'm one of the three co-founders of Pool Together. We founded Pool Together 8, which created the Pool Together protocol, which we're now all big fans of, all part of. And we have just released Pool Together V5 on October 18th. And very excited to talk about V5 and why we built it and all the great things about it. So really happy to jump into the details. Chuck, you go ahead.
Yeah, same kind of story. Brendan and I started out making, regular Web 2 apps back in the day. And then we moved on to making various Ethereum, crypto, dApps and such and protocols. And then we met Leighton. And Leighton had this brilliant idea that we loved and got on board with and just built it out from there. So as Leighton, you have to unmute yourself as well.
You guys see me?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Sorry, I was having a little bit of a technical difficulty. I missed the question, Darby, but I assume it's just sort of an introduction. So yeah, my name's Leighton. Obviously was co-founder of Pool Together with Brendan and Chuck. And there was a little over 4 years ago that we co-founded the company and worked on the protocol for a long time. And so excited to talk about the new V5 today.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for being here and for the introductions. So let's go ahead and start off by explaining this concept of price savings to people who maybe aren't so familiar with it. So could you explain the basic principles of price savings and how Pull Together leverages these to provide value to its users?
So what's so great about price savings is that it is almost this kind of magic way to have this big return without losing your principal. And it's a very well-known classic financial primitive that's out there. And one of the biggest in the world is the UK premium bonds. And what they do is they have this essentially like a national premium bond. And they do use the word lottery, I believe. And what happens is that everybody in the UK deposit up to £50,000. And they have a chance every week of winning prizes. And these prizes can be up to £1 million. And they actually it's run by the governments. They actually use a portion of the yield for roadworks, public health, and so on and so forth. So it's actually also public good, which is really cool. And that's one of the different things you can do with Pool Together. We've seen that happen as well in our community, with the community putting together a pool to help build a well. And I think one well was built already. I think they're on to the second, if I recall. But so the idea being that you can make saving money exciting. And one of the bigger ones in the States is run by Walmart, because they did a study as like a lot of Americans, and I guess a lot of these are American focused, these studies, and they found that many people didn't have more than $500 in savings. And so Walmart wanted to fix that. They wanted to make that better. And so they created this program where people could have like a Walmart savings account essentially and have a chance to win prizes. And it was wildly successful. In the first, I think, 2 years of its inception, it garnered $2 billion in deposits. I believe it was. Actually, might have to correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was $2 billion. It was a big number. And so anyway, what we've done is we've brought that into the crypto world. And the reason it works so well is because we can create a system that's provably fair. It's provably random, totally transparent, and it's very easy to distribute the funds. It's like, with one line of code, we can distribute funds to hundreds of people, potentially thousands per day in the future once the system starts to scale. So it's a very natural fit with crypto technology. It enables this trustless, permissionless way for people to engage with this fun core primitive of prize savings.
Awesome. And Leighton, would you like to add to that?
Cool. Yeah. So I think the question was more just the genesis of Pool Together. And basically, I think I heard some of what Brendan said. I think he covered it pretty well. But we were familiar with this concept from the traditional financial world of like these prize savings accounts, and familiar with the research showing why these are not just popular, but also like a core financial primitive that's very healthy for people, like a financially healthy primitive.
So what was the fundamental inspiration behind transitioning to V5 and creating the hyperstructure?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because I wouldn't say that there was any kind of bolt of lightning. It's been more us discovering along the way, iterating over the last 4.5 years on what works and ways to minimize risk. And I think the term hyperstructure, what's interesting about that? So that was coined by Jacob Horn about it, actually 2 years ago in January. And he gave a name, he gave a label to something that we all felt was right. And we've been on this path for a long time of building something that people can trust and that's totally transparent and that basically can't rug the users in any way. And also is fully automated. And some of our first experience with that, I mean, this actually digs deep, but I believe it was back in PoolTogether V2. And at the time we had what we thought were a massive amount of deposits. I think it was 1.6 million. And that was a huge amount. That was just incredible for us to have locked into this code. And we needed to upgrade from Psi to DAI. I don't know if anybody's old enough here for that, but that was a big event when Maker rebranded its collateralized stablecoin as a multi-collateralized stablecoin with multiple assets. And we had to upgrade our prize pool to support this new asset. This was back when it was just Leighton, Chuck, and I, and we spent weeks preparing for this event, this upgrade event, and went through like the memory structure to make sure everything was absolutely perfect. And then finally we ran the upgrade, pushed the button, and everything worked flawlessly. Everything worked really well, but the risk and stress and expertise required for that upgrade, to me, was a very strong signal that we need to make non-custodial code. We need to make not upgradable code and make it as simple as possible, because not only are we incurring risk for our users, but it means that the rules of the game can change on them. And so it's just kind of antithetical to the crypto space. And so that was a lesson we learned a long time ago. So immutability is kind of in that sense related to non-custodianship, but of course it goes beyond that, because there's also there could be immutable code that has admins that can control the funds. But so when I say non-custodial, it captures both control, but also upgradability of the smart contracts. So the logic as well as the custodyship. And in the ensuing years, building PoolTogether V3 and then V4, there were admin controls to tune the number of prizes. And initially for V3, I think in the first few months of it, we were the ones managing that. We were tuning it to make sure that it worked and it worked well. But eventually we actually turned it over to governance. And then governance created a proxy team, the prize team, and turned over tuning to them. The problem with that is that it doesn't scale. It does not scale very well. If you have to have people tuning this machine and watching this machine, it means that, let's say we're now deployed on 6 different L2s. You're going to have a very difficult time scaling the people and the team and the expertise required to manage all these instances. So a big part of automation is scalability, is the ability to have this thing run in perpetuity without any kind of manual intervention. Minimizing that manual intervention is not only good from, control standpoint. I mean, ignoring the whole custodianship, but just like needing to turn up the number of prizes and turn down the number of prizes. It's just too much. And so it opened up, it was clearly, needed to make this thing fully autonomous so that we didn't have to do any kind of management, so that it would be this machine that just lived on in perpetuity. And so those two things have kind of become the cornerstones: immutability and essentially non-custodialship, immutability, and automation. Those two things are extremely important. And actually, another thing is related to automation, which is incentivizing all the different kind of actions required to turn the machine over. Sort of like how a car engine has a starter motor. You need something to bootstrap it, to kickstart it. You need an alternator to keep it going once the machine is started. And that all requires energy. In our case, it requires incentives. And that was a very essential part of this new system. And a good case in point is if you go back to PoolTogether V2, it's still running. But because the actual RNG submission and creation is not incentivized, I think last I checked, it was like a $9,000 prize, but no one's pushed the button. Why would anyone push the button? Why would I pay $50 in transaction fees if I'm not guaranteed a cut of that to cover my costs and perhaps give a little extra boost to incentivize me to continue to do so. So building incentives into the automation became an essential part of V5. And so, and that was a good lesson from going all the way back to V2. So all these lessons have culminated in V5, and we fit the mold of the label, the hyperstructure that was coined 2 years ago, but it has been a long road to get here. And so in that sense, there was no bolt of lightning. It's been a lot of learning over the last 4.5 years. It'll be 5 years in April. And so we're very excited with Pool Together V5 being the kind of culmination of all that learning.
Awesome. Yeah, you guys have come a long way with several iterations. It's really great to see the end product. And as I understand it, the hyperstructure is like the end goal kind of for Pull Together. Like this is meant to be like the final like iteration, hopefully. So it's really cool to see how everything has come together over the years and see how you guys, listen to the community and kind of, learned from all the different previous versions. So one really cool thing about V5 is this idea of just holding to win and how simple it is. Could one of you guys maybe elaborate on the simplicity of how it enhances the simplicity behind just holding to win and how it enhances user experience compared to previous versions?
Sure. I'm happy to hop in on that, Darby. I think because this is something that I think is really cool. So for context for the people listening, what Darby is referring to is with V5 is basically, yeah, you don't have to take any additional action other than holding what's called prized assets. So like, for example, say you have USDC, you can get prized USDC in a couple different ways. You can obviously go to an interface and deposit your USDC and you'll get prized USDC. But you can also get it just like swapping on Uniswap. So there's now Uniswap pairs for like USDC, prized USDC. And so if you swap, you'll get the prized USDC and there's no additional action you need to take. You'll just start winning prizes and the prizes will automatically be sent to your wallet. And so as compared to like V4, the last version of Pool Together, you would have to come to the website. You'd have to check for your prizes. You would have to claim your prizes. And there's also like an expiration. If you didn't claim your prizes within, I think it was 60 days, they would expire. And that was due to a technical limitation. So it's nice. And you can still go to the website and still have kind of the checking your prize experience. But it's really cool to be able to have this like truly permissionless and extensible token that can live in all these different places. And as long as you hold that token, you're eligible to win these prizes. So that's definitely something I think is really cool. I don't know if Brendan want to add anything to it, but that's my take on it.
Yeah, I would add that I feel like, and Leighton, I think you did a really good job of this with articulating the differences between each version. And on that note, on a related note, this is kind of going back to the original Pool Together, the same kind of experience, the simple experience of just deposit and now you just start winning prizes. What ended up happening was that we deployed V3, which was just that. People could deposit and then you'd get your prizes. But it didn't scale because to actually tick the draw over and go and send prizes out to every single address, it means that you have to run potentially thousands of transfers within a single transaction. And so that's where V4 departed from V3 in that sense, in that users had to go claim their prizes. And this enabled us to have a virtually infinite number of winners. The downside to that is that they had to go claim their prizes. And so V5 is actually the best of all the past versions in terms of user experience, because now we can scale the system to thousands of prizes a day and users still get their prizes automatically. So it really is, it's kind of the original experience, but scalable.
I think that's a general theme is like the V5 is there's parts that are similar to like V3, parts that are similar to V4, but it's kind of like the embodiment, the best parts of all the previous versions combined into one. Cause like, as Brendan was saying, V3 had prizes were automatically sent to you, but the problem was it was not done in a scalable way where the prize distribution could scale to have thousands of winners a day. V4 had thousands of winners a day, but the problem was you had to go claim them. And so V5 has really kind of taken the best parts of all the previous versions and put them into one total package.
Yeah, my first personal experience with Pull Together was with V3. I put in some dye, and I do remember it was this nice like set it and forget it type thing. So it's kind of cool to see that come back for V5. It's pretty exciting. So I would like to send my next questions to Chuck, actually, because I would like to hear from him. So Brendan touched on incentives for V5, and incentivization is a core feature of the new hyperstructure. So Chuck, could you give us some examples of the key mechanisms that are incentivized and how they contribute to the protocol's growth?
Yeah, definitely. That's been my focus over the past year or so is these bots that actually run the incentivization. So the protocol has been designed in order to incentivize anyone to run actions that the protocol needs in order to survive and be healthy and continue on into the future. So one of those, like the main one is the draw action, which is getting a random number or RNG. So somebody needs to kick off that process. Right now it's using Chainlink. So we go and get a random number from the Chainlink VRF service, and we have to pay them in Link, and there's gas costs. So somebody runs that transaction and pays the Link and the gas costs, but then they also will make money back that should hopefully cover that and give them a profit in the end in order to get that random number. The second part of that is the relay or the bridging. So we take that random number that currently is getting, we're getting that on the L1 Ethereum mainnet, and we bridge that over to all the different prize pools and all the L2s. Currently, that's only Optimism. I believe we're going live with Arbitrum really soon, though. So there's this second layer where we need to take that random number, send it over to Arbitrum, send it over to Optimism, eventually ZK Sync, et cetera, et cetera. And that's also incentivized because we need to bridge that random number to these different chains. Some of the other incentivization mechanisms are the prize claiming. So we were just talking about how it's all automated. All you have to do is hold the token in order to win and get your prizes. Somebody actually has to run the prize claim function in the background. So these prize claimer bots can be run, and they check to see if they can make money by claiming prizes on depositors' behalf. So same kind of idea, just making profit from pushing the protocol forward. And the third one is the arbitrage liquidation swapping system, which is a bit more complex, but basically the yield from the deposits accrues over time, and that needs to be converted into a yield that we can use to give out prizes. So in a lot of cases, we're depositing USDC or DAI into Aave, et cetera. That yield comes back in USDC or DAI, and then we need to convert that into Pool, which is the current prize token, and hand out that pool as prizes. So in the background, there's these swaps that are going on constantly, these liquidations to make those conversions. And the swaps are incentivized so that whoever's making that swap should return a profit as well as help out the prize pool by getting that pool token.
That's awesome. It's really cool to see that there are now different ways to profit using Pool Together through incentivized bots. And for those of you who are here, Chuck is actually going to host a live demo and AMA tomorrow in the Pool Together Discord at this exact same time at 9 a.m. Pacific. And yeah, Brendan, would you like to add anything to what Chuck said?
No, I think he articulated it really well. Those core three incentives that drive the system forward, and they're all public functions, so anyone can call these. And the other cool thing about this is that the core immutable part of the protocol is basically the prizes, the prize liquidity, the distribution, but the actual claiming and liquidations are managed by vaults. So we have provided some really solid default mechanisms, the liquidation pair for liquidations and the claimer bot, the RGDA claimer bot, the claimer contract. But those at the end of the day are totally customizable. So there might be some people that decide, hey, we're going to make a custom vault that, just claims it automatically for our users, or we're going to liquidate it ourselves and go, do something else to liquidity. So all of that is still configurable. What we provided are defaults that are immutable, that people can easily plug into. And that's part of the beauty of the system, I think, is that people can plug into it any way they want, whether it's adding new price hooks, custom price hooks, creating custom vaults, and really just doing what they want and truly being a permissionless system. So
awesome. Yeah. And while we're on that topic of price hooks, I would like to talk about how people can create vaults with various functionalities. So for example, they can create a vault that contributes to public goods, or of course, using price hooks to do that as well. So what do you envision being some of the most exciting or impactful use cases for these?
The diversion of a portion of yield is a classic that has been around for a while. And that's what the community is using to build those wells is they've created a V4 pool that diverts a portion of the yield to build a well, to build for public goods. And so that's a classic integration that's really easy now with the vault factory that we have, so people can spin up their own vaults. So that's a kind of a low hanging fruit. What is not documented very well, which we're hoping to improve on very soon, are prize hooks. And this is something I'm really excited about because it allows people to plug in custom logic when they win a prize. And that means that if anyone remembers, we used to have something called pods where people could all deposit together and deposit as a single depositor. They would split the prizes. So it was a way to kind of almost like an office pool when your office goes and buys like, the capital L lottery tickets and then splits the winnings, that same kind of thing, but enshrined in immutable code. Well, what we can do now is we can create custom pods that do whatever they want with those prize tokens. And some like very obvious, I think, low-hanging fruit there is one that actually I'd like us to build pretty soon, is the ability to swap your prize into any token you want, so that you can either compound in more prize assets, or you can decide, hey, I want to stack ETH automatically. It just automates that swap into whatever token you want. And another one that I'm very excited about that we do have some plans for, this is a bit of a bigger project, but imagine you can now enable any NFT holders to win prizes. And so you can create a custom prize hook for a particular, let's say you deposit $1 million into PoolTogether, then you attach a prize hook for that million. And any prizes won by that account will then be randomly distributed to one of the NFT holders. And so this allows you to immediately plug utility into any NFT. And I think that's a particular exciting use case because it allows us to explore a different distribution method for PoolTogether, where we create these cool looking NFTs that actually if you hold them, you win prizes and they get transferred to the owner automatically. And I think this is super exciting. It's something that we have not really had the ability to do before because we haven't really allowed a sort of extensibility in that manner. But in this permissionless way, anyone can plug in the prize hooks to do whatever they want with the prizes. And I think that's really exciting. And, I would love to participate in a hackathon and see what else other people can come up with, because it's a very, very flexible system. And so it's going to be fun to see how creative people can get.
Yeah, it's going to be really exciting. I did tweet this out at one point, but there's also like a Notion page full of ideas that people can build upon. But yeah, I think it's really exciting to see how much customizability there is with V5 and how permissionless it is as well. I honestly can't wait to see what people build on top of PoolTogether. So my next question is regarding the way yield works with V5, because it's a bit different than previous versions. Previously, each asset had its own pool that would generate yield and then reward that back to its depositors. But with V5, we have one unified pool across different assets. So my next question is, what are the implications of consolidating all yield to pool tokens in terms of scalability and network effect?
Yeah, well, an issue we had with previous pools, and this is particularly evident with V3, because V3 had isolated prize pools. Like you said, USD was separate, ETH was separate, OM, if anyone remembers that, was separate as well. And the problem with this is that if you wanted to add a new asset or add a new yield source, you can't tap into the existing prize liquidity. You have to start your prizes from scratch. And that bootstrapping was very capital intensive and required a lot from people if they just wanted to add a new asset. So with V5, what we've done is, and this kind of has two additional benefits. By consolidating all the yield down into a single token, we have a relative measure between all these heterogeneous assets as to how much they contributed, and so that we can distribute odds accordingly. If something contributes twice as many tokens as this other thing, then it gets twice as much chance to win, distributed among its depositors. And so that's been very useful in that sense. It also allows us to have a single deep pool of prize liquidity. So now we can just basically chop up this single token and distribute it across all these different winners. So that really simplifies in that way. Using the pool token is good for us because the pool token governs the protocol and it aligns governance with the needs of users. So it makes sure that we all want strong pool liquidity. We all want pool to be strong itself. And pool as well is a non-upgradable token that has a finite supply. And so it's helpful for us as well because we control this. It's not like us plugging in USDC and then USDC is upgradable or, it can be blacklisted and all these things. So it's a very kind of decentralized in that sense versus relying on anything else. And last point, actually, there's probably more points here, but I'll stick to the big ones, is that because prices are claimed automatically and sent to users, and we're looking to distribute price liquidity through, or price token liquidity through AMMs and whatnot, that means random contracts can win prizes. And so rather than burning ETH by sending it to like a dead address or burning USDC, in a sense, we're burning shares of the prize liquidity. And this means that over time, there'll be fewer and fewer pool tokens, but we won't be losing. The volume will remain the same. And this is good because it means it just makes us more capital efficient. We're not wasting money in that sense.
That's really awesome. Yeah, this whole idea of consolidating all yield to pool tokens is a significant shift, and I think it's a right, like a good step in the right direction. Yeah, Leighton or Chuck, do you guys have anything to add?
And I mean, I think maybe just to delineate, like there's a lot of downstream things of what Brendan's talking about. For example, one being that the fact that the pool token is this oracle, essentially serves as an oracle in the network for how much yield each vault is contributing. What that means, that sort of the downstream practical implication of that is it means anyone can now add a vault with any asset and any yield source. And so there's that's huge. That was always such a huge, in my opinion, two of the huge sticking points of PoolTogether's growth historically. One was the fact that it was very sort of arduous and long. It was a very arduous and long process to add a new yield source or deposit token. And the fact that it's now fully permissionless and anyone can do so is a huge unlock. And then the second is, again, Brendan mentioned this, but just to reiterate, this idea that each pool had to effectively bootstrap its own prize. So even if, for example, the USDC prize was $100,000 a week, if you started a new pool with DAI as a deposit asset, you would start with a $0 prize. And that's like a huge problem. And so now having a unified, each vault is plugged in and growing and has access to the same prize is just like incredibly, incredibly powerful because you don't have that bootstrapping problem anymore. And it's now also permissionless. So not only is it easier, it's also better. So it's like a 1-2 punch there. So that's a really, really cool thing.
Yeah, seeing how permissionless V5 has been really great. And I still see like these tweets of they'll mention Pull Together and they'll be like, oh, when blah, blah, blah token. And it's like, I feel like not enough people know that basically any token with any yield source can be added to the protocol now. So I feel like as Pull Together scales to more chains and word gets out, we're going to see a lot more, vaults being deployed. And it's going to be really cool to see how that goes forward. So we're kind of nearing the end here, but can any of you guys share any insights into like future assets or yield sources that you're looking to integrate into the Pull Together ecosystem?
Well, short term, we're talking to Rocket Pool because Rocket Pool looks like they could have a fairly solid optimism deployment of their staked Ether, their Rocket Pool staked Ether asset. And this would enable us to support staked yields on optimism. And that's really exciting. A lot of people want that. People want to hold ETH and imagine holding ETH and having great yields and being able to take advantage of that. So that's short term, something we're looking at. Still investigating other yield sources. I think there are going to be more and more options, especially as we diversify to other L2s. There are so many different protocols out there to be able to integrate. Somebody even asked in our Discord the other day, I think it was Tuna, about integrating the ARB staking system. And that will be a definite possibility. And so we'll be able to integrate whatever we need. But I think doing due diligence, and this is something I mentioned in the quote unquote big head growth strategy, kind of comedically named, but essentially the focus is to focus our efforts on just a few gold standard, high volume, high liquidity assets like USDC, assets like ETH, because that's where the bulk of the market is. And so we want to make sure we put all our efforts into that. There's a lot to rolling out a new prize token well. Things like reaching out to CoinGecko, making sure that it's listed, making sure it has an image, making sure the name and symbol are consistent with the others, reaching out to wallets, getting integration there, getting liquidity out to different AMMs. So rather than kind of go broad and have a bunch of shallow vaults, it's going to be, I think, much more compelling if there are a few clear winners that we push hard on, that we all align on, we all coordinate on. And for the time being, that's going to be ETH and stables. And of course, and with Aave, our gold standard partner that's been solid as a rock. This past couple of days has been interesting, though, but it also has really revealed how honest their security team is. And so Aave is doing everything they can to make sure that they have a bulletproof protocol. So this only strengthens my trust in them as a partner.
Definitely. Yeah, it has been an interesting last couple days. But it's great to see the way, how quickly DeFi protocols react to any kind of vulnerabilities. And of course, Aave is very beloved. And it's great to see them caring about, the community and doing everything they can in order to protect people's funds. Alrighty. So, yeah, does anybody else have anything they would like to add before we end it here?
Well, I just want to thank you, Darby, for hosting. It's been a lot of fun. It's great to be able to talk about all this stuff. I feel like, as much as we try to be transparent with the community, having this kind of, one-on-one or one-on-three is really, really helpful to let us just kind of talk more casually about what's going on and what we're working on and just the why of V5. We put out some articles here and there, but there's so much behind these decisions that we've made. And so it's nice to be able to share some of that rationale.
Yeah, awesome. It's been so great having all you guys here. Like, I can't remember the last time we had all three co-founders in a space. So yeah, it's been great. And yeah, Chuck, would you like to say something?
No, I just wanted to second Brendan, just say thank you for hosting this and coming up with such great, insightful questions. I really feel like we covered a lot of V5 and hyperstructure in this call. So it's been fantastic. Thank you.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah, Leighton, go ahead.
No, great to be with everybody. Thanks, Darby, for hosting and everybody for joining. Yeah, no, I actually think, Darby, this might be the first ever time Brendan, Chuck, and I have all been on a call on a public thing together. So it's pretty fun.
Oh, wow. I had no idea. That's really cool. Wow. Yeah, I'm truly honored then. So thank you guys so much for being here. This has been fun. I can't wait to get the word out even more, as time goes on and we Pool Together deploys to more chains. So yeah, it's an exciting time and there's just so much to look forward to. So again, thanks guys for being here and thank you everyone who joined in and listened. So thanks everybody and I'll see you next time.
Thanks, everyone.